Hello and welcome to this dApp safety video. In this video, we're going to go down a list of frequently asked questions that are focused on dApp safety. And first I want to mention that I'm not an expert, but I just have some information to share with people who like to play TOZM to help them play TOZM in a safer manner. And I'd like to also mention that this video does not cover all wallet security topics. It's too broad of a topic, and we're really focused on safer use of dApps on Hedera like the TOZM dApps that we have. And also I should mention that using dApps involves risk, and the goal of this video is to try and minimize that risk. And so the first question we'll go through is what is a dApp? It's a decentralized application, and we got an example of one here. So this is a web application here where you connect to your wallet. And once you're connected, you click this button, it's going to call a smart contract, so you're interacting with the smart contract, in this case to mint an NFT. And so we'll just go ahead and hit approve. And now it's connecting, it's minting an NFT for us right now, the contract is. Oh, and we got a lump of coal, so hopefully we'll get something better. We'll try some more, we'll have some more tries later on in this video. So let's keep going down the questions that we got. So we kind of reviewed what is dApp, and then what is the recommended way to use dApps like TOZM safely. And one of the recommended ways to do it is to create multiple accounts for each dApp. And so here, the example I have, I've got an account here, which is what I call the TOZM account, which we would use to connect and to run TOZM dApps. And we also have a separate account for SocialSwap to run SocialSwap dApps. And if we, continue, if we wanted to have Bonzo, we'd have a Bonzo account. We'd have just keep having multiple accounts there. And that may be kind of burdensome to have so many different accounts, or one account for each dApp is a lot to do. So what some people tend to do is they tend to have, I'll create a low value account for some dApps that are risky, that don't involve, they aren't audited and aren't fully battle tested. And so they put the risky dApps in this low value account that they have, so they never have too much to lose. But the safest way is to have a separate account for each dApp. And I wanted to mention that creating separate accounts is pretty easy. I'm just going to add an account, create a new wallet. I typically go to advanced creation, and then I click here to create one. And then it will give you the 24 seed phrase that you have, and it's a little bit of a bother to have to store that safely and all that kind of stuff. But it is the recommended way to run unaudited dApps like TOZM. And so let's get back to the questions that we have. So yeah, use a separate low value or low value Hedera account when trying new dApps, especially dApps that haven't been audited or extensively battle tested. And so here, just on SocialSwap, this is on their homepage, sort of a little lower down. They're just mentioning that their smart contracts have been audited. The V1s have been audited by this company, and the V2s have been audited by this company. And they've also been battle tested for years with millions of dollars. So they've had whereas TOZM, this has not been battle tested very much, and it has not been audited. So you have to have be especially careful when using dApps like TOZM. And so then the question is, if I use a separate account for each dApp, am I totally safe? And the answer is no. But what you are isolating the damage that can be caused. So if there's something wrong with a TOZM dApp, it's not going to impact your high value accounts. But you still want to take steps to try to protect the value in each specific account that you have. So we're going to go over how to go about doing that here. So what are typically the two most important fields to pay attention to on the approvals page? So let's go back to that approvals page here. Let's go to we're going to mint another one. And so the two most important fields are the contract ID that you're calling and the amount of HBAR that is requesting. And so those are the two most important fields to pay attention to, and we're going to really focus on those in this video. So then the question is, if the requested HBAR amount is 0 HBAR, is it always safe to approve? And the answer is no, but you might think, well, it's not taking any HBAR from me, so what could go wrong? But sometimes that you can have an allowance, that the smart contract that you're calling can have allowance to spend some of your other tokens like USDC or other tokens. And if you're not sure how that contract is going to spend those tokens, it could be problematic. So you have to be always mindful of just because it's a 0 HBAR transaction does not mean it's totally safe. And the next question is, well, okay, so if you have a contract that you're calling and it has no allowances and the requested HBAR is 0, then is that safe? And usually the answer would be yes. That would be a safe transaction to go with. But there are cases if for some reason that contract that you're calling is holding something of value like of yours or some way to manipulate value. For example, like if it's holding a valuable NFT and you currently have it listed for 1,000 HBAR, and if you were to call that contract and you have the ability to lower the price there, so somebody could trick you into calling that contract and lowering the price from 1,000 HBAR down to 1 HBAR, and then they could scoop that value, that NFT up for, just for 1 HBAR. So that is an example of how you have to be careful, even if there is no allowance, there are no allowances, and even if the requested HBAR is 0. And so these allowances, you have to be very careful about these allowances. And then the question is, will my wallet alert me if a transaction is asking for an allowance? And the answer is yes, it should. And I'm going to do an example of that here on SocialSwap. So here's just a simple swap. Like if we wanted to swap, let's just say 3 USDC for some HBAR, which is going to give me this much. And then I'm going to go ahead and approve that. And in order to do this, it has to approve an allowance first. It needs to be able to take this 3 HBAR from me so that it can swap it and give me HBAR in return. So this is asking to give an allowance to this contract, the SocialSwap contract, to spend 3 USDC, which is, or 3 of this token ID, which is USDC. And then I'm going to approve that. And now I've approved an allowance. And so now it's going to ask me next, it would ask me, okay, now that I have the allowance, let's go ahead and perform that swap. And if I were to click approve here, it would perform that swap, use up the allowance that I gave it, and give me HBAR in return. But I'm going to, just to make a point, I'm going to reject this transaction. And so right now I'm left, there's an allowance that I currently have, which we can see that right now, because I approved an allowance. And so it might take a little bit to show up. But I never actually completed the transaction that I made the allowance for. So it's just kind of a lingering allowance that is still there. But here I'm allowing this contract to spend 3 USDC. And so let's go back to our questions and continue on here. So will my wallet alert me? Yes, it does. We just saw that it alerts you very clearly that you're giving that contract an allowance. And then can I view all the allowances my account has granted? And the answer is yes. We just viewed the one that we just created. And then here's the one that we have to focus on. If I completely trust a particular contract ID, like that SocialSwap contract ID, it's safe to give it a large indefinite allowance. So I don't have a large allowance, but I have this 3 USDC allowance that I have it, which is just sitting there indefinitely. And so, and the question is that safe? Can that be abused in any sort of way? And I want to point out how a malicious dApp can potentially abuse that. I haven't tried it myself, so I don't know for sure if it'll work, but I'm pretty sure that this type of attack would work. If it's calling this contract ID to mint the token for me, but if for some reason this were a malicious dApp and it knew that I had this allowance of $3, it probably won't go after me there. But if it were $300 or $3,000, they might try to target that and say, okay, they'll trick me into calling, instead of this contract, call the SocialSwap contract ID, and then use my allowance to buy one of their junk coins. And then after I use my USDC to buy their junk coins, they'll sell their junk coins and take my USDC out of the contract. So it could potentially be misused. I'm not positive that it would work, but you just need to be careful if you have allowances on contracts, because somebody could try to trick you if you're not vigilant and paying attention to every contract that you're signing to. You might not know what you're signing, and you might sign something that you didn't intend to do. And so let's go back to, we'll review our frequently asked questions. So then the question is, all right, so is it safe to trust a smart contract with a large allowance or high HBAR request? And the answer is yes, and that is why smart contracts are so useful. And I'll give another example here on SocialSwap. If this is a liquidity pool, and if I wanted to add liquidity to this pool, I can just say I wanted to add a massive amount of liquidity to this pool. If I were to go ahead and if I had the funds in here and I were to click, it would first ask me for an allowance to to spend 10,000 USDC. And then after I approve that, it would ask me again, okay, now let's go ahead and let's put the USDC and the HBAR into this liquidity pool. And it would give me, ask to have permission to spend this much HBAR to transfer that into there, as well as it will use that allowance to put the USDC in there. And so this is an example of a contract which has massive allowances and massive amounts of HBAR going into it. And and because these are audited and it's been battle tested, it is something that happens over and over again. But that is different from, TOZM. These have not been audited, have not been battle tested. So you need to be careful and you don't want to put large amounts in there. But maybe a 25-cent token or an allowance for 50 cents worth of something, that might be something you might consider acceptable risk to take, while playing TOZM. But you definitely do not want to do any kind of high values. So if you're ever, doing something on TOZM and it's asking for like 100 HBAR or, and it has the contract has got an allowance for a large amount, then you know that something's not right and you don't want to do it, or any kind of dApp that has not been audited. You want to be very careful as to doing large sums, large value transfers. All right, so it can be safe, but you have to be careful with unaudited contracts, and also all contracts too. And then how can I review a contract's code? So it is possible to review a contract's code, and I'll just show you here. But this isn't really to replace auditing. It's just you can view this code, maybe give you some confidence, so that like, oh, I don't mind, trusting it with 50 cents or $1 or something like that. But also too, it's kind of to help to show that the game is fair. Like if you wanted to look at the odds of getting each one of these NFTs, you can calculate these and see how it is, so that you know that it's kind of fair how these are all being distributed. So in summary, it's ideal to use a separate account for each dApp, or at least a low value account for dApps that are not audited and are at a higher risk level. So we're playing games like TOZM, and to isolate and minimize risk. And also, when approving contract calls, it's really important to check the contract ID to make sure nothing's unexpected, and also to check the requested HBAR amount to make sure that's within what the expectation as well. And then while you're looking at the contract ID that is being called, you want to be very mindful of contracts that have allowances or that are holding anything of value that you have. And also, you want to be extra careful whenever approving allowances, and you also regularly want to revoke any unnecessary allowances that could be misused. And while we're thinking about it, we might as well revoke that one that we have here. So here, let's revoke this guy. So now, this particular special TOZM account does not have any allowances, so we can feel pretty comfortable as we're going ahead and using some of these dApps. So let's go ahead and give it a try now that we've got a little more safer perspective on it. So let's try it now. So here's the contract ID. This is the ID this is the contract that we're expecting, and it has no allowances and it's not holding anything of value. So we feel pretty comfortable with that. And the requested HBAR amount is 0, so we feel comfortable with that. So we could feel pretty comfortable to go ahead and click approve. And also, if for some reason we miss something and overlook something that was important, and it isn't safe, we are doing it from a separate account, which is made is for interacting with TOZM dApps with a very low value in it. So we're not risking too much, even if we did make a mistake. But I feel we're pretty confident that this is we feel pretty safe to click this. So let's go ahead and try it out, see what we get. Hope we don't get coal. If we do, we're going to have to try it again here. Oh, lump of coal. Okay, let's try it again. And it's always good to check again because, maybe somebody, if it were a malicious dApp, they might, try to switch it up on you as you get ingrained just clicking over and over again. So, but this is the contract we're expecting, and still 0 HBAR, so let's go ahead and approve again. All right, an epic sensational star, good job. All right, so this is I hope you enjoyed this review of TOZM's dApp safety, frequently asked questions, and hopefully it'll help you feel more comfortable using TOZM dApps in a safer manner, and also possibly help you out with some of the other dApps that you can use on the Hedera ecosystem as well too. So, all right, well, hope you enjoy playing TOZM, and hope you enjoy playing it in a safer manner. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.